Welcome back. Let's talk about issues that are current in terms of politics. This last 2 days, the president hosted the governors. 16 of them did not attend. They made some certain decisions. I don't know what you think about that meeting as members of parliament.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, this is my first time this year, so I have to wish you a good year.
Yes,
also.
Happy New Year.
You know, the meeting being held in Sagana is not a meeting just like that. It's a meeting that's required by law. It's not a meeting where we're going to take tea and all that. It's a meeting that the law requires that the president must meet with the governors at least once a year. And so this is the third one. It's being done, and during those meetings, they're supposed to discuss the relations between the national government and the county government. And so for me, I think I would want to look more at what is discussed there than who attended or wouldn't attend, because the governors have a council that has representatives and also has officials. And you know, I saw reasons being given. Some of them are sick, some of them are out of the country and all that. But it tells you also how governors have their priorities, right or wrong, which ones to choose to go to and which ones not to choose to go to. But the most important thing for me, Mutegi, is we want to see the national government working very closely with the county governments. For me, that is very important, and that the county governments understand that Kenya is one country. There are no 48 governments. It's one Kenyan government with sub-governments, the county governments. And so there's no point of posturing, people thinking that they are higher than the other and trying to do tough wars. I think what Kenyans want is, can the devolution that we voted for in 2010 give us service we need? Kenyans don't want to see us bickering, making noise and trying to pull who is more powerful than the other. And I'm hoping that, you know, the meeting Sagana basically ended up with those resolutions that will help improve service delivery to the Kenyans.
Well, the issues which are being discussed in Sagana are very key. One, we have the issue regarding roads. We all know that Uhuru Kenyatta, in his presidential address in the new year, he said that he intends to tarmac 10,000 kilometers of road in the entire country. But then again, there was a court case that was pending as between the Council of Governors, 29 other counties, though I'm made to understand that 10 other counties joined that suit. And they were able to obtain an injunction against the government. And the effect of that injunction was that presently, the government is unable to tarmac various roads. And these were campaign pledges, and people are suffering. And therefore, to the best of my knowledge...
Who do you blame? It's the Council of Governors that went to court.
Yes, of course, I blame the governors because, the reason why I would blame the governors is this one. One, they were supposed probably to sit down in government and agree. These are continuing projects. Already government has committed money in these projects. So when you go and you start this process, the people who are going to suffer are Kenyans. So to me, the best outcome of this meeting, I would want them to resolve that case. Presently, yes.
No.
Excuse me. Excuse me. You are going to have your time. Most importantly, we do have a constitutional deadline upon which we should devolve roads, which is said to be about March 2016, 1 month from today. I don't see why they should have gone to court to push for an earlier date of devolving roads. They should have waited for that constitutional deadline which is set by the law. But most importantly, obtaining an injunction that is going to block the operations of Kenya Rural Roads Authority, to block things which government has already set funds. To me, I think Mr. Munya did something that is wrong to this country. But I'm happy, at least my governor was not part of that process. But then again, the way that order was framed, it appears to have affected each and every county.
It should be good to you know, get it clear like this, because something I've written about on roads. One thing about roads,
has written about it.
Something about roads, Tegi, is this: that before the court case, it was government. It would be good to know how much roads were done by government before this case, because the decision of the court was made last year. Before that, Uhuru had been in power for 2 years. It would be good to know how much or how many roads were done before that time. But fundamentally, Mutegi, is that what governors tend to do is not right in this sense. That the constitution foresaw the fact that we need to make a law that would classify the roads so that we know which roads are county roads, which are national government roads. That is a problem. And as we speak, there is a law before there's a bill before the assembly, which we should wait. We do that law. That law will provide for which roads need to be done by the county governments, which roads need to be done by national governments. And in that regard, I think the courts also probably overshot themselves. They ruled so soon on how these roads are supposed to be done. But that doesn't stop the government from going ahead with the roads that are highways. The roads that are supposed to be done by Kenya, even those ones. There's a project called Annuity. I don't know if you heard about it. Now this Annuity, the roads were advertised in 2014, October. This is 2015, February. No single road under Annuity has been done. 2014. This is now 2016. No single road. 18 months down the line. So Uhuru Kenyatta has failed on the front of roads. That's what I can assure you. He's failed in the whole of the country. So you cannot tell us that because of the governance. It's a failure in investment, a failure in proper decision making to ensure that roads are done.
Maybe there's no money.
Well, the point is, we do have money, it is true. It is intended for these roads. Number two, personally, as a member of parliament for Kiharu, I'm pained by that decision because they had about 5 roads under that program. But then again, I don't want to blame Uhuru Kenyatta per se. One, we all know the issues of procurement in this country. Immediately you commence a process, a person goes to court, obtains a certain court order, and you can't roll out projects. So therefore, he wanted to be very sure that the procurement process is above board, so that people don't go to court. Number two, originally the way that program was designed, it later came out to be it was not feasible, because the idea was,
that's the point.
Well, the idea was you go to the banks, you obtain some guarantees, you proceed to do that road, and then thereafter the bank is going to demand some money.
So who advised them on something that was not going to pick up?
Well, you see,
if you have 5 years and 2.5 years of them you spend in planning and hoping that what you're planning is going to work right, then you're not good for leadership.
No, you can't say that. You can't say that, because
trying to plan on a road and it's not working, abandon it, work on thing.
No, you see, one,
can we move to another subject? Another subject I would like, what took place in Sagana is that they made decisions about austerity measures, part of it being transport and travel. Do you think these are serious? Because I've heard that before. What do you think about that? They made
Kenya isn't serious about austerity, I'll assure you. Nobody, including me, nobody is serious about
austerity,
cutting costs. No one is. People, we run a consumer economy. The more you consume, the better. The more fuel you consume in your car, the better. The more food you eat, the better. Everything else, the more you do them in big numbers, the better for the country, for everybody else. That's what we believe in. And so, you know, the so-called Magufuli effect, it can't. In this country, it won't work, because if the president says we need to work this way, and before the month ends, you'll see him carrying 100 people going out of the country. Is that a good example?
Even the way they arrived there.
Yes, so
the way the president arrived there,
we need to stop lying to our people. We need to start taking steps that are practical.
Let's hear from the poorest MP.
No, it's a lie.
The point is, it is a lie for one to say that Uhuru Kenyatta is a person who likes to show off. No way. Uhuru Kenyatta, no, in terms of having a large...
Is he serious?
Yes, and I'm going to prove to you. Number one, when you compare Uhuru Kenyatta's motorcade vis-a-vis the motorcade of Kibaki, the motorcade of his father, Jomo Kenyatta, you'll see his is very small. That's number one. Number two, we have seen directives which have been rated by the head of civil service on those issues. And I can tell you as a matter of fact, and you know it, for instance, in Parliament, we have now cut foreign travel. Number two, the problem was that as a government, you do not have much leeway on how county governments are going to spend their money. But now I'm happy to report that yesterday, when the president met with the governors, they agreed that, number one, they are going to increase the amount of money that's going to the counties, but there's going to be a caveat, that they cut costs, that they cut travel by a half, which to me is a good way that shows that indeed the government of Uhuru Kenyatta cares on the issue of cutting costs. But most importantly, we have seen how many ministries which this government runs. There are very few. The constitution talks of about, I think, is it 24 or thereabout? But for now we have about 20 ministries. That shows indeed this is a government that cares on cutting costs. But also, and also, Madame Serem, if you look how she has been working, she has in fact, she has ensured that our allowances when we go outside the country, they have now been reduced. I'm sure you can attest to that fact, that indeed the kind of allowances that you get per diem once you go out of the country is now a little bit smaller as compared to the first year when we joined government. Surely.
You know, cost cutting is something that goes beyond travel. The cost cutting requires a very serious policy on how you want to run a lean, clean government, run by example from the State House going down to everybody else. Okay? And you cannot do it you cannot do it half-heartedly and saying, but because you are making noise, let's do this. When we came to Parliament, the biggest news that was heard that time was the issue of allowance and all that. And I can assure you, in terms of travel, Parliament has not gone down on travel. People just travel. Travel is all over the whole country. People are just traveling, and it's so much money that is being used on travel. Members of Parliament traveling, members of so we need to really cut costs in a manner that the money we can say we've saved 20 million or 1 billion in cutting costs, and we've used this to make this road or that particular industry. We need to go that way. We cannot just be doing this on the air.
Let's move away from that and go to the Public Accounts Committee on the Judicial Service Commission. It looks like once again the judiciary is in trouble, not now because of corruption of bribery, but allowances.
No, what we're discussing in Parliament now is something that happened in 2014, 2013, yes. And it's not just allowances, it's a whole set of things,
yes.
Starting from not just bribery like you said, but you know, procurement that was done very wrongly, and generally a lack of transparency in the way we've been running our judiciary. There's the report that we have here on the table enumerates a litany of so many issues that have happened in the judiciary, and I'm happy with the PSC that they have brought these ones out, and that if EACC and the DPP takes some of the recommendations that have been put here seriously, then we could probably see the judiciary also walking a clean path. But Mutegi, the most important thing that I want to say is that this country and all of us have a role to play in ensuring that this country once more walks the path of truth, the path of transparency, and the fact that if Kenya does well, all of us do well. And the idea that if I do well, then I don't care what happens to the person next door. If I do well, I don't care what happens to Kanata. It's a wrong thing, and that's what's happening in the country now. Everyone's trying to grab whatever they can grab to do well, not caring about what happens to the person next door. It's a bad culture. We need to change it. If you given public positions, you use public positions for the betterment of the lives of Kenyans, for the betterment of for the overall good of the country. But increasingly, I'm seeing everybody at every level trying to ensure that if you're given power, if you're given position in government, how fast can I enrich myself? After that happens, then people spend so much time now trying to defend themselves. The community is coming in, saying, you know, how we are being, targeted and all that. Then we need to stop that culture and start looking at individuals and how much they are doing for the country when they are given opportunity to do anything for the country.
But you, the politicians, when you are taken to the ethics and the corruption commission, you go there with your tribe.
That's what must change.
When you go to court, even during petitions, you go there with the
Kenyans must know that when you are being hired to go and sing songs, when you go to the EACC, you're actually killing yourself, not the person you're escorting. That's what Kenyans should know.
Specifically, what is the errors that the Public Account Committee found in the judiciary?
No, a couple of things. So many things happened in the judiciary at that time. There was the war between the JSC and the then CRJ, Gladys Sholei. Then there were so many procurements. Remember the building that was procured in Upper Hill,
yes,
for the Court of Appeal judges, which they never went to in the first place. It was paid for a long time. There was a building called Mayfair. Rent paid for 2 years in advance. Okay? Remember the Chief Justice's house? Yeah. That was bought for more than 3 million shillings. He's never moved in there to date. Money lost. A lot of money lost. Yeah, people just buying things. Remember the security upgrade that was done by somebody called Werunga? Not asked for. Done and done at very high costs. So many things that were down there. You come in and just employ people without contracts. People are given contracts on phone calls.
Now, what do you think? Well, with the judiciary having that kind of reputation, or the Judicial Service Commission, should we be having trust in it?
Well, to me, I doubt as to whether Kenyans have sufficient trust with judiciary, and for several reasons. Number one, the kind of judgments that have been coming out of judiciary, some of them have been delegitimizing judiciary. A good example was this war against alcoholism. We all know, as a matter of fact, how people in central Kenya, people even in other parts of Kenya, have been affected by illicit beer.
Second generation.
Yes, but now I remember some people went to court. They were able to procure an order which appears to say that the action of the president was somehow null and void. But when such kind of a judgments come out of the court, which appears to negate efforts, very genuine efforts by the society to redress key problems bedeviling our society, people will feel very unhappy. I do not want us to reach the stage which we saw in Kerugoya the other day, when a member of parliament is fronting citizens to storm in a judge place. But of course you can understand the frustration of the people when you see a person who has been selling drugs, a person who has been selling marijuana being released.
But the judge, the law.
Well, I agree. Well, you may say that he has applied the law, he has done that, but I can tell you as a matter of fact, wherever you give judgments and rulings, you must ensure you contextualize that judgment. No. And by the way, some of these aspects, by the way, you will see we have evidence in form of previous records, in form of very cogent evidence that was rendered by the lower court. Remember, this was an appeal that was pending before that court, and there was already a pronouncement by the lower court. But anyway, besides that,
you want to wake up one day go and remove from their
the point is we must of every time uphold the rule of law. I support it, but some of the judgments I see judges pronouncing, they may as well delegitimize judiciary. But and there are several. The point is, it's upon the judges to know the sensitivity of the matter. A good example is this one about people selling poison, which has been masqueraded as if it is beer. It is not. Surely, when you now appear to be telling Kenyans, no, you can do whatever you want to do.
That's not.
I'm telling you, Kenyans are going to have a major revolution.
You know, Mutegi, we have failed in so many things. And judiciary has failed in so many things, but on this one, that is wrong. Because if people are selling poison, we have bodies that deal with those people, the things. We have the KEBS, we have the poison sport, we have bodies that are supposed to deal with those ones.
Not members of the public.
And not the judiciary. The judiciary deals with cases brought before it. But you cannot wake up one day, Kangata, and go with 100 people, hoping you're going to chase people from their premises that are licensed. And the courts will accept. We can't rule.
No, let me tell you the reason why. Let me tell you the reason why. Let me tell you the reason why we went that way, which the President Uhuru did. The one,
it was wrong.
No, it was good. Let me tell you the truth. One, there was a problem with the whole system. You find the people,
the institutions failed. That's what
it is true. Institutions failed.
So saying the institutions.
Yes, of course. We are doing that. We are doing that. No. We are doing that by proposing amendment to the law. But surely, before we do that amendment to the law, surely we cannot wait and see our people suffering. We cannot wait and see people dying. No.
Members of parliament cannot go bombing people places, trying to demolish legitimate businesses.
No. There's no way you can talk of
in this shop. In this shop, they are selling water, which is legal. They are selling sodas, which is legal. They are selling VLB, which is legal. So the thing is that you must target what you're talking about. You cannot go into a shop and say you're going to make the shop.
By the way, I'm sure you are aware.
Follow the law.
No, we do have a law. We do have a law which allows citizens to do what is called a citizen. You can arrest,
but don't demolish people's premises.
No, you are
business. In Uganda we sell changa that is done very well, and no one has ever died there of changa. Have you
exactly. The reason why this guy is supporting this issue, you sell changa. For us, we don't want changa.
Don't take anything.
Well, let's move from that subject to another one. The proposal by Parliament to have qualifications before you enter Parliament or before you become an MCA. You have to have a diploma. As a member of Parliament, you must have a degree. What do you say to that?
Well, personally, I don't support that proposal at all. Let me first start by saying it won't affect me. I do have a degree, in fact a master's degree in law. So therefore, it won't affect me. So therefore, I am supposed to be happy with such kind of a proposal, because the effect will be those people who want to vie in my constituency, they'll be fewer. But I cannot look things from that point of view, from a personalized point of view. I have to look things from a larger society's point of view. And the point is, where power is being exercised in a monolithic manner, at that point you can as well raise the bar of education. A good example is the seat of the presidency, or the seat of, let's say, a judge who is exercising judicial power, or a governor, because these are individuals. That is, power is being exercised in a monolithic in a monolithic manner. But where power is being exercised in a collegiate manner, that is, there are so many people.
But as you as a ward representative, it's monolithic on that concept.
No, it is not. It is not. It is not.
If you are unable to read.
No, well, it is not. Power is not being exercised in a monolithic manner at what we call assemblies.
If you are going to legislate, and the members of MCAs are supposed to pass laws for that county. If you cannot pass law because you are uneducated, then why are you there in that county assembly?
Let me explain why you are there. When you have something we call a college, that is so many people, you strive for what we call diversity.
No.
Therefore, in diversity, you seek to look, one, representation of women, of people with disability, educated and non-educated.
No.
When you fail to achieve that concept of, diversity, you bring what we call exclusion, which can bring what we call a revolution. So therefore, for instance, when we say people must have degrees to become member of parliament, what will be the effect? It will mean, out of a potential population of 20 million adults who can become members of parliament, you reduce now that pool to about 700,000 graduates who presently are in Kenya. Is that fair? From a pool of 20 million,
then why are you building universities?
Well, the point is, fine, it is good. It is good for people to get learned. It is good, by the way. But ensure you have what is called, that person who is a Makanga Amkora has a representation in that place.
No, I believe there's no particular correlation between better learning, for lack of a better term. There's no correlation between better learning and good leadership. There's no connection, really. There's no big connection between the two. But what has happened now is that the work of a legislature has become so technical.
Yeah.
It has become overly technical. It requires you to have some basic tools to be able to engage with it. Even at the MCA level, you know, we have budgets being made down there, okay? That requires people to follow the process. How does the process work? How do we engage public participation? And above all, we've said in the Constitution that you can only use 2 languages in the county assembly, Kiswahili and English. And I can assure you that in part of this country, there are county assemblies where members who are there have not spoken throughout their term because they cannot speak neither English nor Swahili. So unless you're going to say we can use local languages, and 2, I mean, just to engage with what's around you, you need to have some basic basic education standard on structures. Because in this day and age, Mutegi, why don't you want to just acquire a diploma? In this day and age, why don't you want to go to school?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I can tell you the reason. I can tell you the reason. Education, post-secondary, has a major cost element. So many poor Kenyans cannot afford to go to the universities and colleges. Not because they don't want to go to those places, simply because they cannot afford. Okay, are you telling me?
Why not take the one to afford? Why take
Oh, good, exactly. You want to discriminate against the poor. You want to discriminate against the poor people. You want to say poor people have no chance in leadership. That is very unfair. This notion of lawyers, doctors, educated people are the one who is in parliament. Poor people cannot become parliamentarians.
I know so many people in parliament who are not poor, but don't have those papers, and they hardly participate in the proceedings.
Fine. The question is...
So what is stopping them from
by the way...
Look here, we must invest in learning. And part of that investment should include ensuring that our children go to school from class 1 to college. You must encourage it. If Guru says government is going to support pre-primary education and physical education, it should be done so that everyone is able to acquire those standards of education, so that we're able to engage with what's happening. But you're not going to have MCAs who cannot read and write and have a governor stealing all our monies. You can't have that.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Our MCAs, our MPs must be able... The reason we have these kind of things happening in parliament is that some MPs, people are not able to follow the processes. People are hardly able to engage with what's happening in the country, because what is happening now is too overly technical. So people must be able to... If you want to be a leader, you must be able to show capacity to to follow the proceedings of the county assembly, capacity to follow the proceedings and engage with them in a meaningful and incremental manner.
Well, I have no problem with that, by the way. If our education post-secondary was free, I would be a supporter of this proposal. But so long as this country, when you want to go to college, you have to pay about
even
$300,000.
Even primary is not free.
Well, it's supposed to be free. It's very cheap.
It's supposed to be, but it's not free.
It is cheap. But the question is,
college education college education is the most cheaper in this country than high school and primary.
No, it's very expensive in this country.
College education is cheaper.
Therefore, this notion of saying only educated people will go to parliament, it will mean you want to exclude poor people.
The idea is to show capacity.
Let me ask you a question.
You must show
when you go to Turkana, for instance, or even several counties in the northeastern, you'll be shocked to see that a vast majority of those people have not gone even beyond standard 8. Are you now telling me that when it comes to the issue of nomination,
we have members of parliament in Turkana who have degrees? All of them
but they are very few. They are very few. They are very few.
Let's look at the
this is class politics.
We must
you want those people who are up there, they no longer have this notion of thinking about the
even African traditions. Even in African traditions. Did you see in African tradition poor people in leadership?
Exactly. You hear my brother what he suggested. This notion of trying to say no, they were there in form of what we call warriors. A warrior, by the way, according to what I was being told by my grandfather, there were 4 people who are very key in the politics of our forefathers. 1, the rich person, I concede. 2, the person was very good in matters of litigation. We used to call him Meshiri. No, and then there was a warrior.
Warriors educated.
Finally, there's the final point. There's the final point. Are you telling me a person who is a professor in, let's say, in commerce is more brighter than Jenga Karume, who does not even have major education, but is very rich?
You're not talking about
to me, there's no way. You cannot tell me that Jenga Karume, whose education is very modest, but we have seen with our own eyes how he has become rich, that we shall not be hearing from Jenga Karume. We shall be hearing from this guy whose only ideas is theories, which have no practical impact, but Jenga Karume has done it.
He has done it.
And therefore you exclude Jenga Karume and the basis he doesn't have a certificate, you give it to that professor of commerce.
We are talking about functional leadership.
That's very unfair. Like in Muranga, for instance, in my place, the richest person there, who is my personal friend, and I'm not going to mention him, he never went to be Australian.
You know, you're not talking about riches. You're not talking about business. You're talking about your capacity to functionally engage with the tools for legislation, tools for leadership.
We have seen it from a practical point of view.
When Karume was in parliament those days,
was it the most effective MP?
Yes, was he? Could you say that? Could you say that?
He was.
No, he wasn't.
He was. No wonder he was being re-elected.
The richest, not the knowledge.
No wonder he was being re-elected. Day in, day out. To me, I better choose Karume than a professor of commerce whose theories have never been tested.
There must be a level at which our leadership also gives hope to our people. And shows what we value, and what we value as a country and in the constitution is that we value education,
which is good.
We think people should go to school and they should invest in that, so that in future there's nobody saying that some people have no access. We should improve access and let everybody else have that level of education that we require. If you want to run, still some time, go to school. Make sure that by next year, by August, you have your diploma.
Thank you. You are talking like the Queen of France during the Revolution, who was being asked, surely people are rioting because there's no bread. You tell them they go and take a cake.
That is the wrong analogy.
That's what you are saying. Because people can't afford to go to the university. You tell them, I don't know, do this.
When you are expelled from the university, you went to run for councillor. Yes, and then before you came run for parliament, you decided to go get your degree first. Why do you think others should not get that?
No, I'm telling you.
There is a reader from Kisi who says that you members of parliament of all along you have had issues with the judiciary, and particularly the Chief Justice. Chief Konga played a big role in making Sorey uncomfortable and unaccountable to the JC. What do you say about that?
You saw yesterday, Mutegi, I moved amendments some of them opposed by him. Because this report, there was almost a very deliberate effort to bring Chief Justice's names into this report.
Yeah.
Where you see clearly he has no role to play in the way provisions is being done, but we are trying to bring his name into this to protect somebody else. And agree with the person. The idea is that, you know, corruption is individual. There's no group. There's no group corruption. If you've not done the right thing.
What about the Backstops Act?
This idea of the Backstops Act is used normally to shield people from responsibility. If, for example, what you are saying, Mutegi, is that you took allowances which you didn't have to take, why should you go for a person who never received the money?
And Mutunga took the loan, the allowance and returned when he realized.
Look here, if commissioners decided to do meetings without the CJ's knowledge, why should the CJ take responsibility? And the commissioners are alive. They are not dead. They are alive. We know who did meetings without the CJ's approval. Why should we suggest the CJ and they are alive? Why don't we go after them?
No, but you see, one of the reasons why I thought maybe the CJ is somehow culpable to a small extent is, surely, I don't foresee a situation where it is possible for meetings to be taking place in JSC, where the chair of that JSC is the Chief Justice, and he does not know. I am unable to reconcile.
In this report, we are told how. We are told how. In fact, Mutegi, we are told in this report.
Number two. Well, fine. After he came to know of those meetings, what action did he take? What action did he take? Because now you'd imagine that action is being taken by the auditor, and as a result, the matter is being brought before the National Assembly.
Yes.
Remember, the process of auditing is usually very systematic.
Yes.
Before an adverse finding is made by the auditor, there are several things that must happen. One, we must get what we call a management letter. Then thereafter, they are going to summon you to give an explanation. If you fail to do so, then they proceed to do an adverse finding, which is then brought before the Public Accounts Committee. You are then invited again to make a representation. Then thereafter, if you are unable to do so, they take it to the National Assembly. All those processes. And he was unable to explain that simple fact.
This report says
I am reluctant to
this report says that there are commissioners who would come into town, walk into KICC, into offices of JSC, understand that they have done meetings. Mutunga doesn't know about it. So why do you want to? Two, this report indicated that the Parliament has not been given reports by judiciary. Yes, we've been given those reports. We just not debated them. Why do you blame someone for doing his job?
Somebody is arguing here about education, and many people have written about it, that if you can afford to campaign as an MCA, afford the campaign money, you should be able to afford pay for a degree.
At least. Or even a diploma for that matter.
My point is this one, It is true, that's a good point, except for one point. I know of so many people who have been elected to become MCA, whereas they don't have even a single point, a single cent. Several of them. In fact, there's this tendency in the rural areas where people look for the most poor person and they elect that person.
Maybe in Kiharu.
It happens.
Mostly these poor persons. No. These poor persons mostly are elected because people know that they have gone to school.
Yes. No, I can give you example of young, just common Kenyans who have been elected to become. Yes, I'm going to give you a good example. My friend Zeuri, when he was elected to become the MCA in Nairobi, he was very young. He had not gone to college. He has gone.
Did he do well?
So yes, he has done. He became a very effective MCA, and no wonder he was elected to become a member of parliament of Nairobi.
Has he now gone to college?
Well, I can't say of him, but my point is, there are so many young people who are elected those positions without money. I'm going to reply to his point. There are so many young people who have been elected to become councillors, to become MCAs without having money, and most of them tend to have modest education.
Let them at least go to
don't
a lot of people are saying here, many, that if you want to have a degree, then or a diploma, there must be free education up to diploma level.
Yes.
Or a degree.
Yes, I agree.
The thing is,
that's how I would agree.
The thing is this, that, for example, you won't call us to television today to discuss in English if we didn't go to school. So how do you engage if you don't go to school?
Well, it is not a must. It is not a must for one to become an effective leader to come to the TV.
No.
There are so many. By the way, allow me to finish that point. if you go to parliament and ask yourself, how many members of parliament who are being re-elected most? Because I would imagine that is the best measure of how effective you are as an MP. Most of them don't even come to this division.
You know,
in Anur, he has been elected 25 years. In Yusuf Chanzu,
it's a flawed reading. It's a flawed reading.
So many of them.
It's a skewed reading of the role of the MP. The role of the MP now.
And by the way, they don't even talk in parliament.
The role of the MP.
They don't even talk in parliament.
The role of the MP.
So talking in parliament is a very, I don't know how to do it.
But that's wrong. The role of the MP.
No, there are
three things now.
There are several ways.
No, there are three things, Mutegi. And that's what is important. The reason they don't talk is because they can't engage.
Well, management of CDF.
Which is not your job.
No, management. That's not your job. Oversighting CDF.
That's not your job.
Oversighting CDF. It is.
We have under the new law we now have oversight committees. It's not your job as MP to oversight CDF.
No, he's a part of no members of parliament.
You need to go back to the law and check the role of the MP. The role of the MP is representation, legislation. If you cannot speak in parliament, how will you legislate? If you cannot speak in parliament, how do you live and generate a law?
You can talk through committees. Who says you must come to the plenary?
If you cannot speak on the floor, how will you speak in the committees?
Somebody says, Honorable Kangata, who is saying no to education for members of parliament and the MCs. Look at the job description of the office. What is the role of an MP or an MCA? If they are uneducated, how are they?
How do you legislate? How do you propose legislation if you cannot?
What's their job description?
Well, I agree.
How do you present on the floor if you cannot speak?
Well, one, I disagree with that notion of trying to tie talking English and Kiswahili to education. There are so many people who can speak in Kiswahili and English who are not educated. That's number one. Number two, we want to hear that voice of that person who is not educated in parliament. We want to hear his views. We want to ensure the voice of the marginalized is not kicked out of parliament. When you have a parliament that is full of degrees, you are now having to have what we call a class society.
But how do you get those voices?
Only the intelligentsia.
If the persons you've given, the persons you've given this position cannot speak.
And by the way, a good aspect of education, which you must always note, is that why is it that universities give what we call honorary degrees? It is because they do appreciate there are some people who are so gifted in life that they do not necessarily need to have that document.
We are a good example. We are only setting.
No, they are very gifted.
But look here, Mutegi. We are only setting the basic minimum in the law. The basic minimum, not the highest. The basic minimum. But above all, if you want to get the voices of the marginalized persons, the persons you are calling to Kana or you must get their best. You're not going to get their worst. If you want to hear their voices, are you going to go for a person because he's gay and cannot speak? And just you just be there.
There is nothing.
So that the gays are also there. The gay who is going to come to parliament must be able to speak for them.
No, one thing you tend to forget, and which people tend to think, is that that certificate is an end in itself. It is not. It is not. That degree certificate is not an end in itself. And when you bring this provision, you are going to make it as if it is an end in itself. No wonder universities have that small window. When they see a very talented person, they give him what we call a honorary degree. So therefore, based on the same principle, we do have so talented Kenyans, very talented Kenyans.
I don't disagree with that. I agree.
Because when you bring this provision, it will mean you exclude
much as I agree with what you're saying, that there's talent, people, they're leaders. So many people are leaders without having to go to school. But we are saying that
John Major is not about degree, and I'm told he's one of the most effective.
The nature of the role, the nature of the role of a legislature, be it an MCA or an MP, has dramatically changed, Kangata, and it requires someone to have followed some. You know, for you to be able to follow what happens in Bunge now and even engage with it, you need to have some basic, very basic tools that would only be allowed if you went to school.
Gentlemen, we have to conclude the argument here. From now, we are going to go to another section where we are having loving couples having breakfast here, and I can see the tables being set. I hope we can be also invited there. Unfortunately.